Q&M. A Missouri River, Omaha, Nebraska. The surging Missouri. The flooding could be particularly bad in communities that sit behind levees that were damaged by massive flooding in March that primarily affected smaller communities and farms along the river in the 4 states downstream of the dams. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers says the amount of water being released from Gavins Point Dam on the Nebraska-South Dakota border will remain at 75,000 cubic feet, 2,124 cubic meters per second for at least a month, because of all the recent rain. That's about 85. The Corps will reassess the amount of water being released into the river, and if there hasn't been significantly more rain than expected, the amount could be reduced this summer. But it is still like some answers to common questions about the ongoing flooding. Why are the releases happening? During the March flooding that cost at least $3 billion in damage in Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri, and Kansas, the Corps held back some water in the upstream dams after heavy rains and snow melt in Plains states caused the flooding. But holding back that water essentially filled up 2 of the reservoirs, Fort Randall in South Dakota and Ohi, which also is in South Dakota but stretches into North Dakota. Combined with much of the flooding this spring was caused by heavy rains that fell downstream of the dams, but plenty of water has been flowing into the river upstream. The Corps predicts that 50 million acre-feet of water will flow through the reservoirs along the Missouri River this year. That would be the second. Will flooding continue? More flooding is likely in places protected by levees that were damaged in March because few have been repaired. Levee repairs have been hindered by the extent of the damage and lingering floodwaters, keeping the river level. Because of the additional flooding that is likely, REMAS said the repair schedule for those levees will be affected. Levees. What do communities think? Communities sitting behind busted levees and battling the latest deluge are alarmed. In northwest Missouri, Holt County Emergency Management Director Tom Bullock said every levee in the county, except one, has multiple breaches. When the worst flooding, in Jefferson City, Missouri, floodwater had filled the basement of the Turkey Creek Golf Center with about 4 feet (1.22 meters) of water. Turkey Creek owner, what happened in 2011? Upstream runoff this year is second only to 2011, when the Corps released massive amounts of water from reservoirs that had filled to overflowing. The resulting torrent easily overmatched earthen levees along the river in Iowa and Missouri, tearing football field-sized holes in berms, protecting thousands of acres of prime farmland and forcing the closure of heavily traveled bridges and roads. Government officials in downriver states accused the agency of caring more about protecting river navigation and recreation at the northern reservoirs than controlling flooding further south. Many people who live along the river generally contend that the water levels in the upstream reservoirs should be kept low so they can handle large influxes of runoff. Upstream. Hollingsworth contributed to this report from Kansas City, Missouri. Search for location/city.
Raindrop, drop top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park.